Welcome back, folks. Today's video is all about cooling and our new product sponsor. Right here we have some Davies Craig products. I reached out to them through Instagram and also through their social media and reached out for a partnership. We worked together on an issue I had, which was also an issue maybe some of you are having, which is a remote pump or remote cooling solution. Now, whether you're a race car or an everyday driver, whatever, this solution will probably work for you. Now, we were researching, trying to figure out what pump we're gonna use, what rad we're gonna use, how we're gonna get the cooling back there. As you know, in a previous video, we discussed we're going to move the radiator to the rear of the car, up underneath where the spare tire is. We're gonna free up some room in the engine bay right here for the turbo and turbo piping, things like that. We're gonna declutter all that stuff and move it to the rear of the car. And this pump is gonna get me there. In a previous video, we discussed this water manifold. This is from KMP. This is a nice billet aluminum piece that goes on the front of the LS engine. Now there's a lot of other products out there, obviously, and the choice is up to you. However, these guys are right here in Canada and they make this stuff here as well. So first we'll get into what's in the box and what we got. Right here we have the Davies Craig EWP 150. This is 162 liters per minute water pump. It's all electric. And I know back in the day, likely these were inefficient. Nowadays, this is not the case. Now you've got other brands and things like that. They are very expensive. In this case, Davies Craig has them at an insane price. They are completely reasonable, and in most cases, they're cheaper than a stock water pump. So if you can manage the lines and all that kind of stuff, we're going obviously overboard with this car, with AN fittings and whatever else, but these things adapt to anything. In the box, you get the pump and instructions. This also has threaded inlets and outlets for AN fittings. We're going 16 AN lines. As you can see here on my right, there is ORB fittings. They are all machined very nicely. Everything is very nice. You have your choice of black or silver. In this box, we've got the mounting kit for the pump. It also has rubber isolators to cut on vibration. In this box here, we've got the push connect or push lock coupler that goes in between two lines if you push connect them. You've got 2/4 inch threaded outlets. You can put in sensors, bleeder, whatever. In the box comes with the coupler, 1/4 inch bleeder, and a plug, as well as the clamps needed. For this solution, I was looking for something to go from the steam vent off of the intake of the LS engine, and I was going to route it into here with 2 lines, so this way I didn't have to run the steam line all the way to the back of the car. However, we are doing a little something different with the lines. We're going to go with PTFE lines instead of push lock lines, so this manifold won't be needed. However, we're going to use the rest of the hardware in this kit. Here I've got a 16 ORB line that goes into the manifold. So this will be the outlet here, and there is a threaded insert on here as well. So that's the only thing we've decided last minute that we're going to change the lines. We were going to go push lock, but instead we're going to go with AN lines. So we're going to use that instead. We can probably use the bleeder off of here. And lastly, we've got this 16-inch fan from Davies Craig as well. This is about 2100 CFM and runs 19 amps at full tilt. Now we've got a 25 amp dedicated circuit from the Haltech for this, so this will be no issue, and we'll also be able to monitor the amp draw to make sure that there's no issues. The good thing with this fan is it's reversible. You can pull the fan blade off, turn it around, and pull or push in whatever configuration you like. And what comes in the box, you've got a 16-inch fan, you've got a removable motor, so you can actually change it, which is super nice in case there's any issues. We can then further upgrade later to a brushless setup if we'd like. The good thing with the brushless too is that it draws less amperage and also sometimes puts out more output. So we're definitely looking forward to that. We're gonna give this one a shot. I think this one will be fine. And if we need to upgrade later, it's as easy as pulling the blade off and pulling the motor off. Now all these products are very inexpensive in comparison to other brands, but they're backed by a lot of other manufacturers. My water manifold sponsor here, they also recommended Davies Craig, so we reached out and we're happy to work with them. We are super thankful. Thank you very much for sending this stuff out. We really appreciate that. And here we're just going to apply a little bit of silicone to the silicone lube to the O-rings here. We're going to add these fittings onto the pump. We got one on the inlet. And then one on the discharge. Now keep in mind these are not self-priming pumps, So you do need to install it in a certain orientation, which we will do our best to do according to the instructions. So putting these on is pretty easy. We're just going to put on the mount for now. So there's 5 holes that go around this casing here. We're going to put the screw through and put the isolator on it. We'll do that for all 5. Now we don't need to go too crazy on these, just kind of snug them down. Probably just do them by hand. And it's pretty straightforward, just put this on here. As you can see, there's a lot of room for adjustment. We can put this pretty well in any orientation. So this is where the spare tire used to go. Now it is going to be for a radiator. So I just realized my first issue here is that this AN line on this side is touching the gas tank, so that's not good. But we will have to adjust. That is fine. So with this combination, we should be able to achieve what we want to do. Now, the pump is rated quite high for flow, a little bit higher than stock actually, I believe. So I think it's going to be just fine. We're going to install that at the rear of the car. I was contemplating putting the pump here up at the top, but I believe I had read somewhere, I can't remember where, maybe on the Davies Craig website, it should be mounted directly either to the radiator or near it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put it back there. And we've also been very busy making some coolant lines. So we've decided to move the pump up at the front. Now, I wanted to put the pump at the back. The issue is I want to put the exhaust back on the car. So eventually, like depending on the time crunch, we're just going to dump the exhaust out so we can use the car for the show. But I do want to put the exhaust at the back of the car. We do want to drive the car at some point. We don't want to be, you know, a transport truck and blowing smoke out the top. Now these PTFE lines are super stiff and they don't bend. This is like the max of what they would bend. So, I mean, there's still a little bit of play, which is nice. As you can see, it still moves around a little bit, but these have already been cleaned out. I do have one line going all the way back to the tank, and I'm waiting for some more to come in as some of that was damaged on shipping. So that's fine. A lot of it was kinked and things like that. So we're just going to fix that. Probably a good 30 feet of this line. And I think I have the right fittings. I think I have everything all good. But yes, another reason why we went with the pump up at the front is also that these lines don't bend in the way I need them to. So because they're super stiff, you have to keep them in a certain orientation. I just don't have the space to keep looping things around. So this makes the most sense. Also, we'll be able to still mount the turbo right here in the center, which we plan on doing next. We're going to mount it right here onto this bar and basically have it straight out here. Lines going down, intercooler back in to the intake. Exhaust is going to come out, down, and up and inside the turbo. So that's the goal. We'll see. We will see how that goes. So we've got one more line to make. I'm slowly running out of material, so I'm going to make one more line, which is going to go from the radiator up to the coolant tank here. And then that should be it for now until I get more material. I should be getting some more stuff next week. And at that point, we will be able to finish this and fill it up. All right. We are ready for the cooling fan portion. I picked up this shroud here from Summit Racing. I did make some measurements, but unfortunately it doesn't fit in quite like I wanted it to. Now it doesn't really matter, it fits on the radiator. However, it doesn't fit where the AN fittings are on the side, so we're not going to be able to push the air out from underneath the car down and out. We're going to have to pull the air through and suck it out from the back. So that involves modifying this fan. So according to the manufacturer, all you do is take this clip out, flip the blade upside down, and reinstall the clip. So that's what we're going to do. So pull the clip off. Basically you just expand it, slide it off. Then there's a washer, and I put my thumb right here in the center, kind of pull up a little bit, and the piece comes right off. On the shaft itself there's like a keyway, and we're going to switch it, flip it over to the downstream and reinstall. There we go. So we'll flip this over. This fits on here nice and secure. We're going to make sure it's centered over the hole because we want to draw out as much air as possible. We don't want anything to interfere. Do a little test here and make sure that's perfect. So the kit also comes with these little feet. And these little feet, basically you can put anywhere you want. You can put them up here, you can put them down here, wherever. And basically you decide where you want to put them. So we're going to put them right here in each corner. There is also holes in these little squares, so we can add more bolts if need be, if we're starting to kind of skew this piece of aluminum. But I think we might be okay. And I want to make sure that this is really secure because this is going to be hanging under the car. Basically you're going to be able to see this from underneath. And we want to make sure that that's not going to fall off, obviously. We'll fire this up. So there we go. I'm super impressed with this fan. This is unbelievable how much this thing blows. Like I don't think I'm gonna have any issue cooling this car down. Now, providing we can get the water to the back, obviously, but we're gonna test that pump next. But we're gonna start connecting some AN lines. Oh, there we go. What this does is basically pulls vacuum out of the system. What we're going to do is put the system under vacuum. I think, how many, is that PSI in the center? I'm not sure. I'll have to do a conversion to bar to PSI. Anyway, we're going to put the system under vacuum. We'll let it sit for a little while, maybe 5-10 minutes. We'll figure out if there is any leaks because we do have quite the run to go, and I'd hate to put all this fluid in here and then have to take it out and possibly dump it all over the floor because there isn't really a good place to drain from other than pulling off one of these lines, and I just torqued them all down. And then we've got some fluids over there, some deionized water, some coolant, and we're gonna try to put like 16 liters in here. I'm not quite sure how much this is gonna take, but I think the rad itself is like at least a gallon or two, plus the rest of the system, and then we'll kind of top up as we go, see how that works. But for now, let's put it under vacuum. Basically, the air line uses a Venturi effect, pulling air out through this section, pulling vacuum in this way, and then basically this seals in our fill tank right here. And we're going to see if that holds up. So let's give it a shot. And we are putting fluid in the system. the steam vent or the steam pipe at the top needed to be bled. I guess there was a huge air pocket in the top of the engine, which was not allowing the supply to actually go into the pump properly. So I was kind of bumping the pump to get some flow to push, because we were getting air bubbles. The level was going down, and I was adding more, using the vacuum gauge, sucking bubbles out. There was sucking air out. However, it was still stuck at the top of the engine here. So we're gonna let this sit overnight. Now that it's bled, it runs great. It flows amazing. And yeah, we'll put the cap on here. We'll let this kind of sit overnight. We'll run it again tomorrow just to make sure it is 100%. I also did add a bleeder that came with the kit for the inline coupler that they supplied. Thank you again for that. I added that to the top of the radiator and was able to bleed from at the back as well. So you need multiple areas to bleed if you're going to run a huge system, it seems like. And yeah, we used probably over 16 liters of coolant here, which is crazy, so much. I had to go get another jug because I ran out, and it was starting to pull air back in. So it was like, no, don't do that. So yeah, everything's fine. We're gonna charge up this battery here on the floor, put that back in storage, and get this stuff wired up tomorrow. And then the Haltech can then take over, and it can worry about turning these items on and off as need be. Okay, we have wired up the pump. We have wired up the fan. I've saved you the trouble of watching that because it is lengthy and probably very boring. So, we've grounded the pump to the frame. We've ran the pink and blue wire right up to the PDM, and that is now all controlled by the Haltech. So, when we turn on the ignition switch, let me show you what happens. There she goes. Now, excuse some of that wiring. I've ran some provisions for a horn, for some lights, things like that. That's coming next. And all of that runs in line with the wiring for that pump. So we'll make sure it's nice and loomed up. And we will get that sorted in a future video when we clean up the wiring once we get everything connected. Now, onto the fan. As you can see under here, we now have it all connected. Everything is great. The wiring is all nice and tucked away. System's full. Fan is on. The radiator. And now, again with the Haltech, I've added a button here on the keypad. Here. And what do you know? It blows. Now the air coming out from underneath this car is incredible. Hopefully we don't sit on too many dirt roads. We're going to end up making a big dust cloud, but runs great. It did flow well. It did work really nice. The thing is, after speaking with Davies Craig, just to show them what I had done, they had recommended that I put as much cold water through this pump as possible. So what we're going to do now is just make a quick change. If you remember, we had the steam port coming out, things like that. Now this was going directly into the inlet of the pump that was sucking in basically the hottest water from the engine, sending it back to the radiator. Now ideally we want to put the pump on the radiator itself, pushing out, so the coldest water is coming back to the engine, and you want to keep the seals and the longevity of this pump as good as possible. So what we're going to do now is, you remember I had the line coming down towards the back, and I'm pushing water back to the reservoir. And what we're going to do is instead we're going to pull the water from the reservoir up here, and before the reservoir the radiator is there as well. So basically we are going to be pushing cold water through the top manifold, and then it's going to be pulling water out of the bottom manifold back to the radiator. So we just need to make a quick cut here and add a fitting, because on this turbo we have an inlet and an outlet for cooling. So we're going to incorporate that in now also, as I wasn't really going to use that, but now I have the opportunity to use it. And to achieve this, we're going to use this coupler here with a 1/8 fitting. We're going to add a 6AN90, as well as over there on the pump itself on the outlet, we have another fitting right there, which we're going to use another 90. And we'll go in and out of the turbo, which will allow the suction side and the feed side to run through the turbo allowing both items to have cool water. And the changes have been made. It's now several days later. I had to wait for more fittings to come in. The 90 that I had put here initially didn't work out for me. I just couldn't get the right bend, and this stuff kinks super easy. Now the 120 degree fitting fits perfect. It flows underneath nice and also flows back nice. Now we're pulling from the outlet of the radiator first and pushing it all the way through the system, and then it should be cooled at the radiator, and then it'll be right back here in the engine and the turbo. So as of now, as you can see, we're working on other things. I've had to work on other things while I was waiting for some fittings to come in. And what we're gonna do, like I said before, we're gonna cool this turbo down. So right now I've got this kind of just joined from end to end because we wanna do our little pressure test and wanna make sure that this system is not gonna leak. So we will give it a test run on the first startup. I cannot wait for that. It's gonna be incredible. So big thank you to Alex over at Davies Craig and the whole crew there for making some innovative and amazing products. They trusted me, they trusted the car in promoting their product for you guys, and hopefully you pick one up for yourself. Support us, support them. I'll leave some links below in the description where you can find their social media as well as contact them if you have any questions. Also their website where you can find all kinds of other awesome products for your project. The next few videos, you're gonna see this thing start up, and you're not going to want to miss it. So we'll see you in the next one. Take care.